Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the incredible story of Pakistan, a nation of profound contrasts, born from a powerful idea, and now facing some huge challenges that are going to define its future.
Okay, so to really get Pakistan, you have to start with the land itself. I mean, this is a country of just staggering extremes. At one end, you've got K2, the second highest mountain on the entire planet, soaring over 8,600 meters. And at the other, you're at sea level, dipping your toes in the warm Arabian Sea. That massive drop in elevation from the roof of the world to the ocean, it shapes literally everything.
But this whole land of extremes thing, it's not just about the geography. Woven into these incredible landscapes is a cultural tapestry that's so rich, so diverse, it's practically a world unto itself.
Geographically, Pakistan is like a giant mosaic. First up, you have the Northern Highlands, which is just insane. It's where three of the world's mightiest mountain ranges literally collide: the Karakoram, the Himalayas, and the Hindu Kush. It's one of the most glaciated places outside the poles. Then you drop down into the huge, fertile Indus River Plain, which has been a cradle of civilization for thousands of years. Contrast that with the dry, arid Baluchistan Plateau, the rugged Potohar Plateau. Oh, and there are 5 major deserts too. Each and every one of these regions has its own climate, its own personality, and its own way of life. So you gotta wonder, right? In a land that's so physically broken up, what actually ties people together? Well, a big part of the answer is culture. And specifically, spiritual music. Traditions like Qawwali and Ghazal, which come from Sufism, they just connect with people on a really deep level, no matter what their language or ethnicity is. It's like a shared spiritual language that floats right over those jagged mountains and vast deserts. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? How did this collection of totally different lands and peoples, each with their own unique histories, somehow come together to become the single nation of Pakistan? What was the big idea? Well, the answer isn't on a map. It's an idea. A really powerful idea, actually. One that took almost a century to fully form, and one that would completely redraw the map of South Asia forever. At the absolute core of Pakistan's creation is something called the two-nation theory. The argument was, at its heart, simple but incredibly profound, that Hindus and Muslims weren't just two different religions living in British India. They were two distinct nations. The thinking went that their cultures, their histories, their entire value systems were so different that they just couldn't live together and thrive in one single country after the British left. A separate homeland wasn't just a want, it was seen as an absolute necessity. But look, an idea this big doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It grew over time. It really started gaining steam after the 1857 revolt, which left Muslims feeling politically pushed to the side by the British. Then came a really crucial moment in 1867, a conflict over language, whether to use Urdu or Hindi. For reformers like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, this was the final straw. He basically concluded that the two communities were on separate tracks. So in 1875, he started a college to give Muslims a modern education, to empower them. And all of this built up, bit by bit, until 1940, when the Muslim League passed the Lahore Resolution, officially and formally demanding a separate country. So in 1947, the dream becomes a reality. And this is a huge bud. The birth of Pakistan and the division of British India came with a human price that is it's almost impossible to comprehend. The partition unleashed a total firestorm of violence between communities. And as the scholar Urvashi Batalia writes, this violence was horrifically and deliberately aimed at women. Their bodies became battlegrounds. They were symbols of a community's honor, so to attack them was to attack the entire community. The violence was brutal, it was personal, and it was designed to terrorize and humiliate the other side. The level of terror was so absolute that it led to these unbelievable acts of desperation. In one village, Thoa Khalsa, about 90 Sikh women chose to die by jumping into a well together, rather than face being captured, forcibly converted, and dishonored. It's a truly harrowing story that shows you just how horrific that time was. And you have to understand that kind of trauma doesn't just go away. It leaves these deep, deep scars that continue to shape Pakistan's internal politics today and its ongoing, really complicated search for what it means to be a single, unified nation. And that search for a single identity, well, it's really tough when you look at the reality on the ground. Pakistan is not one single culture. You can actually see this in the data. Take Hofstede's cultural dimensions. The masculinity index, for example, basically measures how strictly defined gender roles are in a society. And wow, look at the variation. Provinces like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab score really high, which points to more traditional roles, while others are quite different. And check this out on the individualism index. Now, all the provinces score pretty low, which means they are all strongly collectivist. The group is more important than the individual. But how much more important? That varies a lot. Sindh is more individualistic than Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Balochistan is the most collectivist of them all. These aren't just abstract numbers. They represent really deep-seated differences in how people see the world. So this data really puts a fine point on it, right? How on earth do you build one single, unified national identity when your foundational building blocks have such different cultural blueprints and are sometimes even pulling in opposite directions? And look, this isn't just some academic exercise. It plays out in very real, very raw ethnic tensions. For instance, there's a strong perception among some groups that the state, and especially the powerful military, is dominated by Punjabis. This creates a lot of friction with other groups, like the Pashtuns, who feel their regions have been targeted with military operations and that their language and culture have been pushed down. You hear complaints about racial profiling all the time. So, while you have these internal pressures challenging the country from within, there's also this massive external threat that's testing the country's very fabric from the outside. Looking ahead, there's probably no challenge more urgent or more existential than climate change. Get ready for this number. Over 7,000. That's how many glaciers are packed into Pakistan's northern mountains. It is one of the largest concentrations of ice anywhere outside of the polar regions. And because of global warming, they are melting, and they are melting fast.
And this isn't some far-off problem for our grandkids. It is happening right now. Back in 2022, for example, a combination of extreme heat and that accelerated glacier melt led to something called glacial lake outburst floods, or GLOFs. These are sudden, incredibly violent floods that killed dozens of people and just wiped away homes, bridges, and farms. This is the new terrifying reality.
So what's the game plan? Well, experts have a pretty clear roadmap. It means building stronger infrastructure, dams, drainage systems. It means planting more trees upstream to stop erosion. It means being smarter about where we build, mapping out flood zones and saying, nope, you can't build there. It means educating people about the risks, and crucially, it requires working with other countries to share information and get access to climate funding. The solutions are there. Which brings us right back to the big question. For a nation that was forged from a powerful idea that's defined by its incredible diversity and is now staring down existential threats like climate change, what's going to be the glue that holds Pakistan together for the next 75 years? Will it be its faith, its diverse culture, or maybe a new kind of shared resilience, forged in the face of a common crisis? That remains the defining question for its future.